Hey guys, and welcome back to the Super Kai Guy channel. Today I'm checking out this Vantrue X4S Duo dash cam. We'll see what comes in the box, how easy it is to set up and install, check out some driving footage during the day and at night, and talk about its pros and cons. Let's get started. So looking at the box itself, looks kind of similar to a previous camera that I have reviewed, but it's completely different actually. I think it's just the design that's similar. So this is the Ondash X4S Duo. Let's look at some of the features that we have listed in the back here. So this is 4K front, so that's one of the bigger differences. And 1080p in the back for the rear camera at 30 frames per second, or we can do 60 frames per second, and both cameras will be at 1080p then. This uses the OmniVision 8 megapixel, I assume, CMOS sensor, and a Sony Starvis for the rear, so that's pretty cool. Has 5G and 2.4G Wi-Fi, so we'll see how well that connects to my iPhone. HDR, I think this is going to be a big one for us. So this uses a supercapacitor, which is a great feature, so it'll work really well in the hot and the very cold weather. There's a 3-inch screen, a few extra features in here. So we have the parking monitor and time lapse. So that's a kind of a cool feature. We'll test that out as well. And the GPS is actually optional, so that's probably one of the cons that we can see here that's not already included. I also believe the SD card is not included, so we'll have to grab one of the ones I already have. All right, so let's open it up and see what's inside. I got that open. There you go. Very nicely constructed box. Well, I guess that just tells you that you're protected by the camera. Cool. So it looks like this is going to be our cable for the rear camera. Let's check it out. All right, so it's using USB Type-C on both ends, so that's pretty cool. The wire is a little bit thicker, which some people think is a con, but I think it's actually really, really good. I used to have a camera that would interfere with my key fobs, so I think that's great that they have an insulated cable like that. Let's see what's in here. This is going to be our rear camera. Right there, it is adjustable, so basically spins, I guess, 360 degrees, plugs in there, and then you will attach it with double-sided tape to the rear glass, and you have an extra double-sided tape. At the top, we also have this quick start guide. Looks like there's a lot of information here that I'm going to check out before I set it all up. And then we have the actual user manual, so it has a lot more information here. Looks like very well designed and nicely laid out manual. I'm gonna read through it, make sure it's good English, but it looks so far. All right, what else do we got in here? We got another box. So here we have the mounting bracket for the front camera. We'll see how that works exactly once we're mounting it in the car. You also have one of these trim removal tools, so that will help us route the wire. And we have a USB to USB Type-C cable, assuming for maybe transferring data or updating firmware. We'll see that in a minute. Next, we have the power adapter. So this is going to power both of the cameras. You don't have to plug in the rear camera into power, just into the front camera. So it looks just like that. Has an extra USB plug in here, and it will power our camera. So let's check out this front camera and see how it looks. All right, so here is the actual camera. I'll remove there you go, with the little sticker. Looks very good. This is of course not adjustable. It looks like a lens, but it's fixed in. We have the power button here at the top, USB for probably the rear camera. It doesn't say that, but I assume this is for the rear camera. We're going to need an SD card as it's not included with the device. Reset button here at the bottom. And we have a couple buttons on the right side here. It looks like there's additional functionality to each of the buttons. So this is most likely the menu. Then we have the Wi-Fi button. And then we have a microphone off. And I think this is picture in picture. So we'll check that out once we connect the camera. But now I'm going to start the camera, look through the menu, and see if we need to update the firmware and play around with it to make sure everything's working as it should. All right, so let's go through the setup and see what needs to be done. It should be fairly simple. Alright, so I have inserted an SD card that I have used in a previous camera, so it should be fine for testing at the very least. I'm going to go to the menu and erase it, which will also give us a good chance to go through the menus and see what is offered from here. So I'm going to go to Format SD. Yes, Format. Alright, format successful, so we are good to go with the SD card. So here we have in the options or in the menu, we have the system options. So we can go in the language, select English, or well, actually any of these other ones in case you're interested. Just right there. Wi-Fi, so we're going to configure that in a minute. First, I want to turn off the beeping. So I'm going to go and find... There it is. Okay, so I turned the beeping off, everything else. Looks like pretty decent options here, nothing too special, at least in this one. Time zones, LCD auto off, so we definitely want to have that. So we'll make it turn off after, I would say, a minute of running. So we don't want to have it on while we're driving. Frequency, this is for your whatever frequency you have the lights on. That helps with flickering and things like that. System info, so here's the version that I'm using. GPS, so this one does not have the GPS adapter as far as I understand, so I'm just going to turn that off. Go to record and see the options here. So for the resolution, so we're going to go to 4K at 30 frames per second. I prefer 4K to 1080p 60 frames per second. Loop recording, absolutely. We're going to set it to I like 1 minute just in case something happens. We have more information saved on the sensor or on the SD card. G sensor, so we'll just keep it front and back. Audio recording, we will keep the audio recording on. Status slide, we can keep the default, doesn't bother me. Parking mode, I will not be enabling parking mode since I will not be hardwiring this into the car. But yeah, that's about it for options. Look pretty easy. The only one left is the Wi-Fi. So if we go into Wi-Fi, I'm going to select 5G. And enable it, and then I will use my phone to connect to it, and we'll go from the app from there. And as you can see, the rear camera turned on as well. Looks pretty good. Both of them are now recording. So let's go plug this into a car and see how good of a quality both of these cameras record. So I'm gonna install the camera in this Hyundai Kona. Here is the plug where I'm gonna plug it in, and then we're gonna route the wire going down here all the way around underneath the glove box compartment, go all the way around here, probably on the side, up through here, through this seal most likely, all the way up, behind this little part right there, behind this trim right there, there's plenty of space, and then I'm gonna put the camera probably somewhere right here. So it should be pretty simple. Of course, we're gonna have to then run the cable to the back, so we're gonna just run it the same way, back through here, all the way around and all the way to the back of the car over there. So it's going to be basically behind the mirror, not blocking the driver's view, and should be very easy to handle the wire since this will twist up. It has one of these very interesting suction cups that you put in just like that. Then you twist this base to where it twists up, and now my cable plug is going to be right there, and it's going to go right behind and follow the line as I mentioned earlier. This first wire is the power wire for the camera. Unfortunately, it does have one of these ferrite whatever things, so I can't hide the wire in completely right away, but we will kind of hide it like this, and it's still going to be out of the way. And the second wire is for the rear camera, so I'm going to plug that into the camera right now. As you can see, it's still loose. I haven't tightened everything up. Put that right behind the base. And do exactly the same thing. Just get the wire to go behind these parts right here. So you definitely don't want to leverage against the glass in case you break it. So you just want to push this away from or towards you and then put the wire in. You want to make sure the wire goes behind this part right here that separates. That way it does not interfere with any airbags or anything like that. So here I just routed the wire behind this plastic panel, and I'm gonna go behind this original carpet, I guess. I'm also gonna hide any extra wire that I might have in here. So in order not to damage this part, I think I'm just gonna leave it like this. It's already super close and I think it looks decent enough. I'll see, maybe I'll try to push this up with a bigger trim tool and get the wire in there, but honestly that doesn't bother me. As an example, you know, the phone cable is always sticking out of here and nobody cares, so I think it's good enough. All right guys, so here's how I installed the rear camera. I got it right here in the middle where the wiper gets it, so you know the outside glass is going to be clean. Then the wire goes down into this trim piece. I had all the extra wire behind there, and then it comes out through that side over here. There's a little bit of a kind of space for it to come out there. Unfortunately, I was not able to go through these weatherproofed ones because I would have to like remove this, and this is very stiff. I think I would ruin it if I did, so I'm not going to do that. I tested it. This seems fine. Probably not ideal, but I think it should work. Then it goes through here, up through that part over there, and then all the way just down that line to where we left off earlier. And then of course the camera is just right there and it's plugging in. So let's go for a ride, make sure everything's working fine, get some footage. We'll see how that looks when, you know, when the sun's down. I'll get some footage for the night and of course during the day. So let's do that. Setup can be done both on the camera and through the app on your phone. Both ways are simple to follow and most items are set where you'd want them to be by default. While it's easy, there are a couple of things I wanted to mention as you are setting it up. Select the highest resolution you can afford with your microSD card size, and then adjust the exposure of the rear camera if you have tinted glass so that your footage isn't too dark. Time-lapse is another option to pay attention to. It's a very nice feature to have, but in this mode the camera will not record regular footage and only do time-lapse. I guess it's kind of obvious, but I did not realize it the first time I enabled it. Which looks fun, but of course not great for security. Anyway, after the initial setup, I used the app for all of the changes and it worked flawlessly for me each time. It's simple in design, but does what you need it to do. And also took about 8 minutes to download 17 minutes of footage using the app. Videos are labeled with the time of the recording and grouped by the date. You can also add GPS location and branding if you wish through the options. These videos can be easily identified which one's the front and which one's the rear because the front will have about 200 megabyte size and the rear will have about 75 or so. Speaking of the footage, let's talk about what sets this camera apart while we actually look at it. The daylight footage was great and you can easily read license plates using the front and the rear cameras. The 4K sensor makes easy work of making clear footage during the day, and the HDR really helps when the sun shines right into the camera, front and back. Nighttime videos were also excellent, but of course not as clear as during the day. Surprisingly, the rear camera actually produced decently usable footage despite tinted rear glass and headlights blinding the lens. You may not be able to read license plates in pitch dark, but it's very useful in emergency. To give you some background, some of the other dual cameras I have tested and installed in my other cars had rear view footage that was not usable at all in these conditions. Alright guys, so here is a night test. It's about 9:30 p.m. so definitely dark and cloudy outside. So I just want to see what the day looks like at night and of course what the sound quality is. After using this dashcam for a few days, I can say that I'm impressed with the quality of the video and the HDR capabilities. I'm also impressed with how easy it is to set up and start using and reliability of the app. I was able to connect to the camera every time and download the footage without any issues. As far as the improvements, I wish they included a high quality and high capacity microSD card and the GPS stand as standard. But I guess this is what makes this camera less expensive and not everyone needs those and already has some microSD cards. Overall, I would recommend this camera to anyone that needs a dual camera with 4K capabilities and a good value. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this Vantrue X4S dual camera down below in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.